If you've inherited an IRA over the last few years, there's a real chance the rules you think you're following are actually the wrong ones. There's an old approach that lets heirs stretch their withdrawals across their entire lifetime. That approach is gone for most people as of the Secure Act from back in 2020. In its place is something called the 10-year rule. Getting it wrong can trigger a penalty that takes a serious chunk out of the money that you were left. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how the 10-year rule works, who it applies to, and the one question that sets your entire withdrawal schedule. So if you're still familiar with the stretch IRA, I'll go ahead and start with what's changed. I know it's been a while since 2020, but I've still gotten questions about it. Before 2020, a non-spouse beneficiary who inherited an IRA could take small required withdrawals spread across their entire life expectancy. People called this the stretch IRA. A 40-year-old who inherited from a parent could stretch those withdrawals across 40 years or more and keep most of the money growing tax-deferred the whole time. The Secure Act ended that for most heirs. For account owners who die after 2019, that is 2020 or later, the general rule is now the 10-year rule. Put simply, the entire inherited account has to be emptied by the end of the 10th year following the year the original owner died. The counting matters here, so let me be precise. The clock starts 1 year after death. If someone inherited an account in 2021, the deadline to empty it is the end of 2031. You get a decade, and the decade is fixed to the date of death. It does not reset, and it does not extend. Now, who does this actually hit? The 10-year rule applies to what the IRS calls designated beneficiaries. For most people watching, that means an adult child, a grandchild, a niece or nephew, or a friend named on the account. There's a separate group the IRS carves out called eligible designated beneficiaries. There are 5 of them. Number 1, a surviving spouse. 2, a minor child of the original owner and only until they reach age 21. 3, a disabled individual. 4, a chronically ill individual. And 5, anyone who is not more than 10 years younger than the person who died. That often means a sibling or a close friend of similar age. If you fall into one of those 5 groups, you may still be able to stretch withdrawals across your life expectancy. Everyone else is on the 10-year clock. As you would expect, surviving spouses have the most flexibility of anyone. A spouse can usually roll the inherited account into their own IRA and treat it as their own from that point forward. That steps around the 10-year rule entirely. If you inherited from a spouse, that is a conversation worth having before you touch anything. Now, here's the question that sets your whole schedule, and it's easily overlooked. Did the original owner die before or after the required beginning date? The required beginning date is the point when a person has to start taking their own required minimum distributions. Under current law, that is April 1st of the year they turned 73. Whether the person who died had reached that date determines whether you owe yearly withdrawals on top of the 10-year deadline. There are 2 paths. Path 1, the original owner died before the required beginning date, meaning they had not started their own required withdrawals yet. On this path, you have flexibility inside the 10 years. You can take money out whenever you want, in whatever amounts you want, as long as the account is empty by the end of year 10. You could take nothing for 9 years and clean it all out in year 10 if that's what your tax situation called for. Unlikely, but you can do it. Path 2. The original owner died on or after the required beginning date, meaning they had already started their own required minimum distributions. On this path, you have to keep taking a required withdrawal every single year, in years 1 through 9, and then empty whatever is left by the end of year 10. The reasoning from the IRS is that distributions already in motion cannot simply pause for a decade. That second path caused years of confusion. When the Secure Act first passed, many professionals read it to mean there were no annual withdrawals at all, just the 10-year deadline. The IRS finalized its regulations in July of 2024 and confirmed that yearly withdrawals are required on Path 2. But because of the confusion, the IRS waived the penalty for missed annual withdrawals from 2021 through 2024. That grace period is over. Enforcement began in 2025, so this is live right now. So let me put this together with an example. And quick disclosure, everything here is hypothetical and only used to show how the rules work. Meet Rachel. Rachel is 52 years old. Her father passes away at age 78 and leaves her a traditional IRA worth $500,000. Rachel is an adult child, so she is a designated beneficiary of the 10-year clock. Her father was 78, well past his required beginning date, which puts Rachel squarely on Path 2. So Rachel has 2 jobs. Job 1, take a required withdrawal every year. Using the IRS single life table, her life expectancy factor at 52 is roughly 34, so her first year withdrawal comes out to about $14,500, which is a modest amount given the account balance. Job 2, and this is the big one, Empty the entire account by the end of year 10. That remaining balance plus whatever growth it earned along the way all has to come out. Now, let's change one detail to see the other path. Say Rachel's father had died at 70 instead of 78. Rachel would still be on the 10-year clock, but now she would be on path 1. No mandatory yearly withdrawal, full freedom to decide when the money comes out as long as the account is empty by the end of year 10. Same daughter, same account, completely different withdrawal schedule decided entirely by how old her father was when he died. And here's why this is worth real thought. Every dollar that comes out of a traditional inherited IRA is taxable income to Rachel in the year she takes it. Rachel is 52 and in her peak earning years. If she ignores the account and lets it ride, she's looking at pulling out $500,000 or more in a single year at the end. Stacked on top of her salary, a large chunk of that money could be taxed at the highest rates she will ever face. A 10-year window is not a reason to wait. It is a room to plan. A more deliberate approach is to spread the withdrawals across the full 10 years, leaning heavier on the lower income years and easing off in the higher ones. The goal is to keep as much of that money as possible in the lower tax brackets, instead of bunching it into one painful year. Where the withdrawals land in your brackets, whether they push you into higher Medicare premiums or whether a big withdrawal year collides with other income you already have, these are the levers a real plan pulls. And a quick word on Roth IRAs because the rule bends here. An inherited Roth IRA still has to be emptied under the 10-year rule. The difference is that Roth owners never had a required beginning date during their lifetime. So an inherited Roth always follows path 1. No annual withdrawals required, just the 10-year deadline. And qualified withdrawals from an inherited Roth are generally tax-free. For a Roth, the common move is to let it grow untouched for the full 10 years and take it all at the end, capturing a decade of tax-free growth before you empty it. Now, the part that makes all of this worth taking seriously. If you're on path 2 and you skip a required annual withdrawal, the IRS charges an excise tax on the amount that you should have taken. That penalty is 25%. If you catch the mistake and correct it within the correction window, generally 2 years, it drops to 10%. You report it on Form 5329. Either way, it's a real cost for what is often just a paperwork mistake, and it's completely avoidable. All right, let's tighten this down to the essentials. What do you need to remember? Number 1, if you inherited an IRA from someone who died after 2019, and you're not a spouse or one of the 5 eligible designated beneficiaries, you're on the 10-year rule. 2, the account has to be empty by the end of the 10th year after the year of death, and that clock does not reset. 3, consider the one question that sets your schedule. Did the original owner die before or after the required beginning date? Before means flexibility. On or after means you must take yearly withdrawals plus the deadline. 4, a traditional inherited IRA is taxable as you withdraw it, so spreading it out usually makes more sense than one large year. One large year can do a lot of damage. 5, a Roth follows the 10-year deadline without the annual withdrawals, and it grows tax-free while you wait. I know you don't get to choose, but a Roth is what you want. If you inherited an account and you are not sure which path you're on, that's the first thing to pin down. And it's worth confirming with a tax professional or a fiduciary who can look at your specific situation. I hope this made the 10-year rule clearer. If you found this helpful, feel free to follow me for more videos like this. And that's all I got. Have a good rest of your day.